Remember how the Warriors aren't supposed to have any centers? They're the ultimate small ball team, four guard lineups. Well, they got their guy. And no, it's not a 7-footer. It's another 6'9", 6'10" player, but it is a center and a very good one in that. I am talking about Al Horford. It has been long known that the Warriors were going to go out and get Al Horford, and it finally has happened this offseason. So let's talk about both the person and the basketball player, because Al Horford became a Boston Celtics legend out there. We know about his time, obviously, way in the past with the Atlanta Hawks, but he was huge for the recent success of these last few years of the Boston Celtics. And of course, we're going to talk about what he brings to the Warriors on the court, but I also think about off the court, because Al Horford is a person that every team needs in the locker room. And the Warriors, they're losing a huge time locker presence in Kevon Looney, who is now a New Orleans Pelican. That still seems weird. We saw him at Media Day, rocking number 55. And again, it's going to be odd going into a Warriors season not seeing Kevon Looney in a Warriors jersey after a decade in the Bay. I think about going into the locker room at Chase Center. When you walked in there, the first thing that you used to see when you turned to the left was Klay Thompson. And then that was an unfillable void, even with how tumultuous his final season with the Warriors was. But then you would turn to your right and you had Kevon Looney there. And he was just such a fountain of laughs, of wisdom for his teammates and for media members alike. You could always approach Kevon Looney. And I think like the running joke was whenever there was a loss or a tougher game, you knew Kevon Looney was going to go to the podium, because that's just the kind of guy he is. Not just was, that he is, that he's going to be now in New Orleans. I think about how Steve Kerr always called Kevon Looney the moral compass of the team. Well, now that might be a role that Al Horford plays. I go back to a quote that Peyton Pritchard, the sixth man of the year for the Boston Celtics, brought up after the Celtics season ended in the playoffs, and he made it clear how badly he wanted Al Horford back in Boston. What he said was, "You can't replace Al. I definitely hope we get that figured out, because his locker room presence alone is just so crucial. We definitely need him back." Well, he won't be back in Boston. He's finally coming to the Bay Area for however long. This is a 39-year-old who did contemplate retirement, but the addition is just paramount for the Warriors and who they are. Al Horford has always felt like a very Steve Kerr, Warriors-y type of player. That might not be a word, but you get my point. And what I mean by that is, this is a center who truly can stretch the floor. But it wasn't always like that. I mean, let me give you guys some numbers here, where his first 8 seasons, Al Horford took 65 three-pointers. He only made 21 of those for a 32.3 three-point percentage. But what happened the next year? And what was the next year? His ninth season in the NBA was the 2015-16 season, which just so happened to be Steph Curry's unanimous MVP season when he won back-to-back MVPs, when the three-point revolution that Steph Curry created just exploded throughout the NBA. And that wasn't just for small guards anymore. That wasn't just for players going to the corner. That was now for centers like Al Horford. So that 2015 season, Al Horford goes from attempting 65 three-pointers in his first 8 seasons in the NBA to then making 88 in one season and shooting nearly 4 times as many as he had up to that point in his career. He took 256 threes in his 9th season in the NBA. Talk about someone who could, change his game that far into his career. Pretty amazing to think about. And now at this point in his career, Al Horford has made 877 three-pointers, which is the 4th most ever by a player considered a center. The 4th most ever for someone who the first 8 seasons in his career, like, he could barely even look at the three-point line. And now I talk about the last 3 seasons when he was, what, 30, 35, 36, 30, no, no, 36, 37, 38. All this is 3 straight seasons now out of Al Horford making at least 100 3-pointers. And even last season, he played a career low when it comes to a full season of 60 games. Yet, he still took his second most 3-pointers ever, 314, and made his second most 3-pointers ever, 114. Like I said, 3 straight seasons of at least 100 3-pointers. And in that span, he has shot over 40% from 3-point range in the last 3 seasons. And this really is a complete change of the guard when it comes to the Warriors in 3-point shooting centers in the Steph Curry era. Think about last season when it came to rookie center Quentin Post. Quentin Post, through the calendar year, was a complete afterthought for the Warriors. Yeah, he was a 4-year, 5-year player in college, someone that they thought, maybe year 2 could really help because he has that college experience, but they really thought that he had a lot of developmental still to go, developing still to go, there, especially in the G League, and particularly his defense, which, yes, is still a work in progress for someone who's not a super athlete. But Quentin Post is a true 7-footer, and he can let it fly from long distance. Quentin Post last season, in 42 regular season games, once he became a mainstay in more like late January, like completely shifted the court for centers for the Warriors, he made 73 3-pointers in just 42 regular season games. Let me tell you guys, that is one behind the most ever for a center to play with Steph Curry, behind only Dario Saric making 74 3-pointers in, I believe, 65 regular season games 2 seasons ago. Before the two of them, we're talking about 54 3-pointers from Nemanja Bjelica, 43 from Amari Spellman, who really didn't play with Steph Curry. That was the year that Steph only played 5 games because of his hand injury, and the Warriors won 15 games in the COVID season where they weren't even able to make it onto the bubble out in Disney World. And then 26 from DeMarcus Cousins and 24 from Mo Spates. So yeah, Quentin Post, like, that was huge for the Warriors. Steve Kerr talked about that all the time, where Quentin Post is a game changer. He gets out there and yes, he has flaws, he has deficiencies. This is a young player who knows that he needs to get better defensively, knows he needs to be a stronger rebounder, and that comes actually with being stronger just overall when it comes to body type. But I think about Al Horford now in the leadership, being able to watch what he does day in and day out. And now I think that the Warriors have a pretty strong trio of centers when it comes to Al Horford, who will be the starting center for the Warriors, Quentin Post, and Trayce Jackson-Davis, who has really been working on that little hook shot around the rim, who says that he wants to expand his game too behind the 3-point line, has really been working on his body, his conditioning throughout the offseason, trying to get back to that player he was, who the final month of his rookie season, he was a game changer in his own right, defensively, running the floor, grabbing rebounds, blocking shots. But you know who else this is going to benefit is Draymond Green. Because really, yes, Draymond Green's best position still probably is center when it comes to the Warriors system, what he does as that small ball center at barely 6'6". But Draymond needs a break when it comes to going against the biggest bodies in the NBA. So the ways that Steve Kerr can lessen the load for Draymond Green at center, the better for Draymond, the better for the Warriors, the better when it comes to preserving his body for down the stretch run, for the playoffs, for any chance at title contention. So Al Horford is going to just help multiple players, and he helps also, of course, as I brought up at the beginning, he helps fill that Kevon Looney leadership void. There's no replacing a Kevon Looney, and it's not like it's, hey, where one day there's no replacing a Steph Curry or a Draymond Green, or just how there was no replacing a Klay Thompson when he moved on and went to Dallas. Way different, obviously, apples to oranges. But Kevon Looney is going to be missed. But bringing in Al Horford, he might be just the player that the Warriors needed this offseason. And I'm going to leave you with this. The Warriors have seen enough of Al Horford. And I'm not just talking about the 2022 NBA Finals. Here is how great Al Horford has been against the Warriors for his career. In 25 regular season games, Al Horford has averaged 14.9 points per game and 9.4 rebounds per game. Those are both career highs for Al Horford versus any team. So yeah, it makes a lot of sense why the Warriors finally want to get this done and make Al Horford a Warrior.